This is an episode of the Asterisk podcast, an official podcast of the Anisfield-Wolf Book Awards. I am Kortney Morrow, the program director of the Anisfield-Wolf Book Awards. All right, welcome to the Asterisk podcast. Jamar, Felton, it's lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. We are going to be talking about a lot of things today. We're going to be talking about the Anisfield-Wolf Book Awards finalist list for 2026. Mm-hmm. We're going to be talking about the state of public libraries. And we're also going to be talking a little bit about your own connection to the Anisfield-Wolf Book Awards collection, moments of discovery and transformation. So I do want to just take a minute to read both of your bios because I don't know if everyone knows who you are, but it is very impressive. So Felton, I'm going to start with you. Felton Thomas Jr. is the executive director and CEO of Cleveland Public Library, one of the nation's largest and most respected metropolitan library systems. Under Thomas's leadership, CPL has embarked on an ambitious 10-year facilities master plan to renovate or rebuild all 27 of its libraries, launched groundbreaking initiatives addressing community needs around technology, education, and economic development, and is consistently ranked as a 5-star library, a prestigious distinction from the Library Journal. Throughout his 40-year career in libraries, Thomas has been a recognized leader in the field of library and information science, serving as president of the Public Library Association. His contributions earned him the Library Journal's Mover and Shaker Award, the White House Champion for Change Award, and the American Library Association's ALA Equality Award. Welcome to the podcast, Felton.
Thank you.
Jamar Rahming is the first African-American person to lead CCPL in its more than 100-year history, stepping into the role in August of 2025. Rahming has worked in the library industry for 20 years and has been at the forefront of many innovative initiatives. He comes to CCPL after 7 years as executive director of the Wilmington Institute Free Library in Wilmington, Delaware, an award-winning organization that was recognized with the 2022 National Medal for Museum and Library Service, the Institute of Museum and Library Service's highest honor for institutions that make significant and exceptional contributions to their communities. In 2023, Rahming received the Movers and Shakers Community Builders Award from Library Journal for his innovative efforts in facilitating some of the most impactful programs the library industry has ever seen. Welcome to the podcast, Jamar.
Thank you.
And you can add, Jamar is now the president-elect of the Public Library Association.
Incredible.
So I'm doing everything that he's already done.
You know, what's funny about that is I feel we are so lucky to have both of you here in the city of Cleveland and in the greater Cuyahoga County region. And there's so many hidden gems in Cleveland, but I feel that our library systems are not a hidden gem. Both of your library systems are consistently ranked within the top 5 library systems in the United States, according to the Library Journal. And, you know, I want to just talk about that for a little bit because I don't always know what that means. Does it mean, what makes up a good library? I think when people think of libraries, they think of going to check out a book and the book is available, then that's a good library. So maybe if you could each take a moment to just describe what, in your lens, makes a strong library system. And Felton, we could start with you.
Sure. Well, I brought a book that really kind of speaks to that. It's called Palaces for the People by Eric Kleinenberg. And his offering was that the world, especially our country, would be much better if there was more civic infrastructure, and that what folks needed to do was have civic spaces as places for people to get to. And his number one key was libraries, right? So, of course, we had them at our library, they had them at their library. And in speaking to that and hearing them speak about it, he said that the key for our country of finding places where people can convene must start with libraries, because libraries are naturally that. So I look at libraries as transformational spaces, right? And where we move away from the traditional. A lot of folks would like us just to be warehouses of books. But the difference with libraries we are that place where we can bring folks together to convene. I've seen you at a number of our programs, and you recognize when you bring people together, whether it's to see an author or a program, it changes what the community is. And that's what libraries ultimately want to be.
I love that. And I think you touched on something that I want to pick up on, which is the types of programs that you're having at your libraries. I've never seen line dancing at the library, and consistently on Fridays at one of your branches, you have line dancing. So maybe, Jamar, can you speak to kind of this mover and shaker and innovation in libraries? What does innovation in libraries look like, and what makes innovation at CCPL so strong?
Well, all's innovation really means, it's a buzzword. All's innovation means is that you have successfully responded to a consumer need. And libraries are all about being responsive to what your community is asking you to do. And I think that we're in a season of history to where, the world is on fire. And I think people are looking for refuge. They're looking for something that's stable that they can grab a hold of. And they're also looking for, they're looking for a way to escape. I mean, when you go back to, the World War II area, the Great Depression area, I mean, people didn't have money to eat, but they managed to go to the movies. I mean, that was the highest decade of movie watching, because people just needed escape. They need a place of refuge. And I think that is one of the greatest needs that we're satisfying today, is that people are searching for meaning and hope and stability. And I think the library is offering that in this era of history.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, such a great point. I also think of just Cuyahoga County overall and how diverse it is. And I mean, for me, I'm always recommending or looking up what's happening at all the libraries. When I'm looking at what to do on the weekends, or if I have a family member in town with young kids, I'm looking for what youth programs are happening, even embroidery and maker spaces. There's just endless opportunities when it comes to the library. But Jamar, I want to ask you a question, because you're the first African-American person to ever lead the Cuyahoga County Public Library. And I want to talk through, as you're stepping into the role, how are you thinking about the diversity in Cuyahoga County and trying to build a library for all people? How do you kind of approach that?
Well, we serve 27 different cities, 47 different communities, in where our administrative building is headquartered in Parma. That's the highest Ukrainian population in the I think next to Ukraine in the world. We serve the highest volume of Arab constituents, Polish constituents. And so I think that being in touch and being engaged with your community. So I try to create an organizational culture and a service model to where our frontline staff have opportunities to, where they're encouraged and empowered to be out in the community, to be a part of the community. And when you're a part of the community, then you know their pulse, you know their rhythm, you know their needs. And then you can come back internally and say, hey, this is what the library needs to do to meet the needs of this, of this community. So I would say creating an organization where staff are not inside the buildings, but they're active members. They're active, and they're a part of the communities in which they serve.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah, when I'm thinking about the Anisfield-Wolf Book Awards and bringing it back to books, one thing that I think is a mission of the Anisfield-Wolf Book Awards is amplifying this diversity of voices. One thing I love about it is that it's an award that's dedicated to honoring writers that are writing about race, but they don't have to be a particular race. It can be anyone writing about any type of topic related to race and race relations. So I want to talk about the moment of discovery that happens at a library, because we are sort of building an alternative canon where people can discover either reflections of themselves or new perspectives. And I would just love to hear moments from your tenure of transformation from, it could be readers, it could be attendees of events. What is a moment of discovery or transformation that you've experienced in your tenure? And Felton, we can start with you.
So I'll tell you two, one more professional and one more personal. The professional is, I had a gentleman who was coming to our library, and he stopped me as I was walking in, And, he says, aren't you the director of the library? And that's where you always get concerned. I don't know what this is going to get to. Where is this going? And he said, I just want to tell you about the great people you have here. He said, like 3 months ago, my wife left me and I have 3 kids and I had just lost my job and I didn't know where I was going. He said, so I came here and dropped the kids off so I could go and start looking for a job. And then I started to notice that the kids were doing their homework, that they were working, they were doing all of these things that they were learning. And then they sat down with me and they started helping me look for a job, right? And work with me on getting my resume situated and getting my set. And he says, and I just got a job. And then he started crying right there to me. And that was like one of those kind of experiences that you just kind of recognize how that transformation happened. Then the second is more personal. I was talking a little bit earlier about, like I have 2 daughters. The oldest is a voracious reader and the youngest used to read with her. And then as she became a teenager, she just stopped. And then I had an opportunity. We had Jesmyn Ward at the library and my daughter came in and heard her, got to meet her, started talking to her. And she really encouraged my daughter. My daughter's like, I guess I should read her book. And she read this book, Men We Read, which is a great book for a recommendation for anyone to read or any of her titles. And she has been reading ever since at the same level. So you just never know how these personal connections, and that's the great thing about having authors who come to cities to speak, because they inspire folks to go to that next level.
Yeah, I love that reflection. And it also gives me some pro tips. My son is 11 and he's not a reader. He's not really, I can't get him. I'm trying
just
all the way.
Him.
So
you gotta find
more events.
Just find a way to connect him with something.
Yeah.
He'll get started.
Yeah, that's helpful. Jamar, what about you? Moments of discovery or transformation during your tenure or even personally?
Well, I would say, I recently came from a small urban library system. And so the library was underutilized. It wasn't visible. So we started trying to really elevate the arts and the humanities as clickbait to get people inside the library. So we reunited the cast of A Different World. And so we had so there was a young lady that had gotten up during the Q&A session, and she basically paid homage to Cree Summers. She said her character, encouraged her to matriculate in college in spite of struggling with mental health issues. And the young lady just wept. And unbeknownst to her, Don Lewis has a foundation that provides scholarships to people who attend HBCUs. So Don Lewis awarded this young lady a scholarship on the spot. So this young lady got a scholarship and had a transformative life experience by coming to a library event.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And so I saw that theme just over and over again. We had a case, to where a young lady had gifted a piece of her jewelry to Anna Navarro when we hosted her, and Anna Navarro gave it to Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg, wore it on The View, and this lady's online sales shot up 350%. But on a personal note, I was a latchkey kid. My mother, worked a lot, and I had this first grade teacher. I was this mannish, I was not, I have a sordid past. I wasn't a well-behaved kid in school, and so this teacher told me that I'd end up in prison when I grow up. This first grade teacher, and that just, those words just kind of, they traumatized me. And I went into a public library and I picked up, it was on a display shelf, I picked up Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And I read that in the 5th grade. And just seeing this young woman, just navigate, the rural South, and who, was sexually exploited and was a mute for 5 years, but a teacher, encouraged her to start speaking and to use her voice in a meaningful way, and that's how she started speaking again. And so that whole story just taught me that what this teacher said about me was not true. So yeah,
I've never heard that story from
you. Yeah.
We are about to take a small break. We are here with the Asterisk, the official podcast of the Anisfield-Wolf Book Awards, and we'll be right back. Thank you, Loganberry Books, for letting us film this episode of The Asterisk in your space. All episodes of The Asterisk are available on all podcast streaming platforms. This video episode is available to watch in full on our YouTube channel. If you're interested in learning more about upcoming Anisfield-Wolf Book Awards events and announcements, sign up for our newsletter on our website, www.anisfield-wolf.org. And now let's get back to the conversation.
So maybe let's switch to talking about Anisfield-Wolf.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I would love to hear from each of you previous Anisfield-Wolf Book Award winners that you've read that have kind of transformed how you think about race and race relations, or how you think about literature overall. So how about Jamar? Why don't we start with you this time?
I would say that the award-winning book by Tia Miles that talks about Ashley's sackcloth. You know, that book was meaningful to me because it just shows the utilitarianism of family heirlooms and objects, and how they tell a story and how they preserve history. But that book also really shook me and alarmed me because we're seeing a major paradigm shift in culture. You know, the Washington Post recently written an article that, you know, the younger generations, I mean, they're throwing out the China cabinets and the China, and so I'm afraid that we're losing history. We're losing stories. We're losing our people are becoming indifferent to their family history. And so if we don't know, if we have no respect or reverence for the past, I mean, how are we going to shape the future that we want? So that book really just resonated with me because it really highlighted a major paradigm shift in American culture.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Felton, how about you?
So I brought two. One only, not only, because obviously, Beloved is a must read for anyone, but it also today, as of filming, is Toni Morrison's birthday. And I think we have to make sure that we speak to the fact that Cleveland and Ohio is doing a year of celebration for Toni Morrison. And well be it. And, the Anisfield-Wolf Book Awards caught her early on in her career. So I wanted to know that. But the one that I brought is The Big Smoke, which after there's an announcement, then before we actually do the celebration, I get a chance to read all the books or whatever. And I was like, I don't get this, right? A poetry book on Jack Johnson, right? It just didn't seem to make sense. But I was like, it's short. I'll give it a go, whatever. And this was the most surprising of every book that I've read, right? Not the best, but the most surprising in how I took it, and I really could not put it down.
Wow.
I love that. I love that book. I love Tia Miles' book as well. I will say I brought that one time I was reading it in laundromat, and someone came up to me and was like, "Are you a boxer? Is that book about boxing?" And I was like, "Oh no." But you should definitely read it though.
Yeah.
You should definitely read
that's
it.
why I was like, and young people, I've gotten young people who are like really into sports to look at the cover and like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, it's poetry? Well, just keep reading and you'll get into it.
Yeah, it's about opening up those doors and avenues for multiple access points.
Yeah.
So, all right, with that, I think let's get into the 2026 Anisfield-Wolf Book Awards finalist list. So I'm going to read the 11 titles that the jury selected as the finalists for this year.
Death Does Not End at the Sea by Benga Adeshina. Born in Flames, The Business of Arson and the Remaking of the American City by Bench Anisfield. The Hollow Half, A Memoir of Bodies and Borders by Sara Aziza. Joy Goddess, Alelia Walker and the Harlem Renaissance by Alelia Bundles. Flashlight by Susan Choi. Jailbreak of Sparrows by Martine Espada. The Second Emancipation, Nkrumah, Pan-Africanism and Global Blackness at High Tide by Howard W. French. Guatemalan Rhapsody by Jared Lemus. Becoming Ghosts by Kathy Lynn Che. Make Your Way Home by Carrie R. Moore. Mother Mary Comes to Me by Arundhati Roy.
So that is the official list. It's 11 titles. Yes, it's very exciting, and I'm excited to talk a little bit about them. So if you have any questions for me, feel free to ask.
I would say this was just an epic all-star, list. It was just so diverse and a lot of variety and genre, background, and content. What title stood out to you the most?
Yeah, it's hard for me to be selective about the titles. At this point, I'm an ambassador for all of them, but I'm going to point out some trends and themes. So one thing that I noticed about this year's finalist list is that it is extremely diverse, like you mentioned. In terms of background, I mentioned that the Anisfield-Wolf Book Awards deals with books that are talking about race and race relations, but they don't have to be rooted in black and white. They don't have to be rooted in necessarily the United States. And I think this finalist list captures that. So I'm just going to talk through a little bit of the range that I'm seeing. Okay. So a book like Joy Goddess, A'Lelia Walker and the Harlem Renaissance. So this book it tells the story of A'Lelia Walker, who was the only daughter of Madam C.J. Walker. Yeah. And for those listening, if you don't know who Madam C.J. Walker is, you should definitely look it up. Yeah. But she was the first African-American woman self-made millionaire. And her daughter became known for these incredibly lavish parties during the Harlem Renaissance. Langston Hughes is the one who named her Joy Goddess. And this book is a biography written by her great-granddaughter, which is very exciting. Wow. So very set in the United States, rooted in Harlem. Another book set in the United States would be Make Your Way Home, Carrie R. Moore. This is a debut author, collection of short stories, 11 different short stories set in the American South. So there are stories in the Florida marshes, in North Carolina. It's very rooted in place and home and trying to find belonging, people coming back down south and trying to find their sense of home. Then you have that alongside titles like, I'm not going to pull it out, but The Second Emancipation. This is a quasi-biography of the, incredible and overlooked figure, Kwame Nkrumah. Yes. So Kwame Nkrumah was a huge activist, played a huge role in catalyzing this movement for African independence. And this book, Howard W. French, is sort of he's drawing parallels between what was happening with this rise in global Black power and how Nkrumah was influencing the civil rights movement here in the United States. So this is an interesting title set in a lot of times Ghana, and we're getting this global influence. More global influence, we have Guatemalan Rhapsody, short story set in Guatemala. Flashlight by Susan Choi alone extends from Korea to Japan, back to the United States. So we're getting this really global infusion, which I think is exciting. Wow. And the other thing that I want to mention that I'm noticing in terms of themes and trends is just the range of where the authors are in their careers. I mentioned 2 debuts. So we have authors who are just releasing their first book. Then we have authors like Martin Espada, a poet who has released 20 books of poems and is now receiving this recognition of a finalist. Or someone like Arundhati Roy, who is an award-winning, Booker-winning novelist who wrote a memoir after the death of her mother in 2022. And it's set in Kerala, India, and Delhi, and tells the story of this tumultuous relationship between mother and daughter. So I think this list, whoever you are, there's something in it for you. There's multiple entry points. And I'm excited by just how global the list is. I think that's how we need to be thinking right now.
Wow.
Yeah. So, when you talk about the process for a librarian, ours is always expanding, right? The number of titles that someone gets to read. Like when someone comes and asks that question of, what is a good title? We take them and we give them an array of titles for them to be. Here, the process has to be so challenging in that you're shrinking all these great titles to just this small number. Can you talk to us a little about that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I will preface by saying I'm very lucky that I am not the one who has to make the decision because that would be very challenging. Yes. I am sort of a support to the jury. So we have 5 jury members. We're chaired by Natasha Trethewey, former U.S. Poet Laureate, incredible author. And all year long they're reading. From mid-April through the year, they are receiving books in real time. I've never seen this level of rigor. I've never seen this level of care put into analyzing texts. And it's truly impressive. They're deliberating back and forth. After a certain point, they start to go into deliberations, and I can't share all the things that happen behind the scenes.
Are you in those? I bet. Wow, I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah, it is an honor to be a fly on the wall. I can interject on parameters or share information of past winners, past history, or guidelines. But they're the ones who are the content experts, and they truly are content experts. So that's sort of the behind the scenes of the process, and it's a really beautiful process to see. So one thing that I'm curious about right now is sort of reader trends, because one of my goals with the awards is to get everyone to read these books. Yeah. Now that the finalists are announced, I'm sort of in the streets just saying, like, please read these books. So tell me, how do you think this finalist list compares to reader trends? And what kind of books are readers interested in right now? What are they most desiring? And Felton, we can start with you.
So I think there's a way it does relate to what people are reading. Right now, like, it tends to be a lot of politics, and a lot of that's kind of where things are, and folks are finding, trying to deal with the world we're living in currently. But I think my oldest daughter is an example of many of the young people who have said they're trying to find these award winners, and they are very dedicated to reading those titles, right? Because the process has shown them that if I read this title, I'm going to have an experience with this book much more than if I just go and select something. So I think for our finalists, they should be very excited about the fact of getting that AWBA sticker on there, so that so many folks know that this comes with that award.
Thank you for that. Jamar, any thoughts on that piece?
I would say, just for readers' trends, I think for people who are recreational readers, the world is dark and scary enough, and so most of our readers, they don't want to read anything that's hard or serious. They want to read something that's very they want to read something that's just light, light and easy. I mean, that's a trend. I think with our majority of our readers at Cuyahoga County system, the highest circulating demographic are are baby boomers, and baby boomers eat this type of stuff up. They want real literature. They want sentences that are meticulously crafted. They want something that, this is the generation where if an award is attached to it, they're going to gravitate towards it, to where our younger demographics, like I think a lot of our younger millennials and the generation behind that, they won't necessarily read these books, but they'll listen to them. They'll download them and listen to them, and they'll have just as good as experience as someone who has read the actual print book.
Yeah, that's helpful. I'm curious, how do libraries balance reader demand with also this custom curation? Like, okay, yes, readers are wanting fantasy, but also how about these books also? Yeah. How do you approach that?
I wish I had a sophisticated answer for you, but basically what we do, we throw a bunch of things at the wall and we hope that something will stick, Well,
I think there's a thing, and I want to just challenge something that Jamar said, because there was a study just recently done by Pew, and they found that folks who were 55 and older wanted print. Folks who were 35 to 55 were listening to like Libby or Overdrive and things of that nature, doing it virtually. And then younger people wanted print.
Wow.
Right. And I think there is something about the feeling of holding a book and reading it that a lot of young people gravitate to and really want to experience. And that's where I think we still should be doing everything we can to push print for our young folks to get that feel for it until they get too busy in their 30s and have to listen to it.
Yeah, it's funny. I like to have my books in print. I like to have them also in audio, and I like them digital so that I can search for words. So I need all three.
and you're right, because we have a statewide initiative, with Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, where kids, who are in kindergarten and first grade, if they sign up for this program, they get a free book sent to their home in the mail, each month. And this program continues to grow by leaps and bounds. So I think you're onto something about children now wanting wanting books. And there was also another study done that these are the kids that are not they could care less about screens. They want experiences. So we're also seeing another shift in culture.
It's really interesting.
So I have a question for you. And now that it's the 90-year anniversary of AWBA, how are you always looking to make sure that there's an innovation to the process or innovation with the awards? I know that you have added some heft to the award-winning dollars that the finalists get. Maybe that's part of that.
Yeah, definitely. So you're exactly right. It was just the 90th anniversary, and I think any anniversary is a moment to look back and look at the history. Really think about this award that has been through 90 years of political change and tumult and progress, and then, retraction, and really look at the core of the prize and what it stood for. 1935 in Cleveland, Edith Anisfield-Wolf, white Jewish woman, looks around the city and says, race is the paramount issue of our time. Wow. And it still is the paramount issue of our time. It's a moment to bolster that. And that's exactly what we did with the 90th anniversary. We created a innovative 2-day festival style format, really trying to open up avenues for more people to get access to this alternative canon that we're building. We tripled the cash prize to deepen our investment in writers and say, you are the writers who are at the forefront of thinking when it comes to race in literature, and we want to pour into you. And wherever you take that, that's what we believe in, and we're excited to start to track that progress. Last year, we had our first memoir category winner, Tessa Holes, who, Natasha called her, and then a few weeks later, she got a call from the Pulitzer. Yeah. So there's just so much innovation happening. And as much as we're looking back, we're also looking ahead to the next 90 years. And there's so much we don't know about this moment in time, about the future, but we know we're committed to that original vision that Edith Anisfield-Wolf had, and that feels really powerful. So that's some of the innovation, and also the finalists. I mean, until last year, we didn't have a finalist list. We just announced our winners in the spring. So this is an opportunity to open up doors for emerging writers, established writers who have been doing the work, to be introduced to the Anisfield-Wolf family, to be considered a part of the legacy, no matter what happens from here. Thanks for that question.
That's great.
Let's see. Okay, speaking to this moment, I want to talk a little bit about hope. So what are you hopeful about right now when it comes to libraries and readers and books? And maybe, Felton, we could start with you.
Yeah, I think there are times when I walk around our library downtown, and I'll walk into different spaces, and I'll see a lot of young people in our technology spaces. And then I'll see not as many people in our spaces where they're reading. But then I will sit down and then see young people coming in and grabbing something and pulling and just sitting there and reading. And there's this sense and lift to my spirit around that there eventually will be, as Jamar said, this moving away from screens and this moving back toward, the whole idea of finding hope and through a book. Someone who, I ended up working in the library when I was 13 because I would go in every day and they would see me and they would be like, "You're here every day, you should work here." And I said, "Sure." Right. And so, but it was because I needed an escape from, the community I was in. And I know that there's so many more folks who are doing the same. And I see that, and I know that that's what the library is providing them.
That's incredible. Jamar, how about you?
I would say just the social impact that we're having. I mean, the public library, I think, is the only space that's open every day, and it's open to anybody, regardless of your race, your social economic status, your religion. And I think that what the library is doing is it's a place to where bridges are built, even though we're more polarized than ever in society. So I would say our social, impact. I mean, we have an innovation center at one of our locations, and a young lady, didn't have money to buy a prom dress, so she went to our innovation center and she designed her prom dress there. And it was such a hit that she designed them for her friends, and she started a small business. And so the library is, the library is a place where we create opportunities for people. And this was a young entrepreneurial spirit, that we nurtured, and that was elevated. Just, this was a young lady whose life was changed just as a result of having resources.
Yeah, I feel what you're both speaking to is libraries are revolutionary spaces. They always have been. And this just came to my mind is just for the people that are listening, how can they support your library system? Is there anything they can do that would make a difference or
Well, we can never tell people, how to vote. We can never cater to political persuasions, but there will be a potential, ballot measure that will eradicate property taxes. And if this measure passes, there will be no libraries in Ohio. There will be no parks. There will be your public schools will be gutted. And so there's some potential legislation that could present some challenges to our future sustainability. So I just appeal to anybody that's a library supporter to look at that and think critically.
Yeah, I'll go a different way, much more simple. There are 11 million people in Ohio. 8 million of them have library cards. The legislators know that. Right. And that's a strong number. Wow. And for everyone, if you don't have a library card, just go into your library and get a library card. You'll be surprised at all of the things it opens up to you.
Yeah. I love that. All right. This is my last question. For both of you, if someone watching this has yet to pick up an Anisfield-Wolf Book Award winner, what advice would you have for them before they embark on that journey?
Ooh.
Oh, dear.
That's a good question. I think what I would advise them to do is to go to the website and be able to look at the full range of titles, right? Or they could come to the Cleveland Public Library, who has all of the titles. Edith Anisfield-Wolf was one of our board members, so she left us all of her titles when she passed away, and so we have all of the titles throughout the history. But being able to just view them and kind of decide what interests you is going to be the best bet, right? Seeing a title like The Big Smoke and like that interests me is going to be at least a great start.
Thanks for that. Jamar, how about you?
Well, I would say you could, this would upset some educators, but I would say if you wanted to teach world or American history, all you'd have to do is just read a handful of these award-winning books, and you will understand every dimension, every facet of American and world world history.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
And there's so many educators who are using the past winners as reference points to build their curriculum, which is a great point.
And so if you're a person that's not a history buff, that doesn't want to read history books, you can you can embark upon a literary experience while simultaneously just having a panoramic view of the entire world.
I love that. You know, what I wish people knew about Anisfield-Wolf is that there really is a title for everyone.
Yeah.
That no matter what your interest is, whether it's boxing or you're Puerto Rican and you want to read some poems about Puerto Rico, there's something in there for you. And these books are challenging. They're not going to be an easy breezy read. They're not light, and they're not your romantasy. I think if people can pause, open their minds, and really allow the words to transform how they're thinking, that is what we need more of. And it might be difficult, but I think we can all do challenging things. So that's what I wish that reluctant readers or people who are hesitant to read Anisfield-Wolf Book Award winners could just sit with. So with that, any questions that I didn't ask or things you want to talk about that I didn't talk through?
No, I think your last statement is something I'd like to just stamp on, right?
That's right.
If you are looking in this time where our history is being rewritten, right? There's a necessity for all of us to read hard things and really learn our history in the way that we need to.
Thank you. With that, thank you, Loganberry Books, for letting us film this episode of The Asterisk in your space. Thank you, Felton. Thank you, Jamar, for joining as today's special guest. All episodes of The Asterisk are available on all podcast streaming platforms. Video episodes are available to watch in full on our YouTube channel. If you're interested in learning more about upcoming Anisfield-Wolf Book Awards events and announcements, sign up for our newsletter on our website, www.anisfield-wolf.org. Thank you.